We're moving into our second match. We took our first 2-1 against a Pyromancer deck. We're assuming the one that top 8'd Eternal Weekend, the North American Eternal Weekend this year. And we've won the die roll for match 2. And we're going to snap keep this. This loses us the game against shops. It wins us the game against most blue decks. Probably also kills us against survival. So we lose to survival dredge. We'd lose to dredge anyway. Survival dredge shops, and I think that might be it at the moment. So I think it's a worthwhile gamble to take. And we're against the blue deck. So barring absolute beatings like Tinker into Blightsteel, which this looks a little bit like, I think we're fine. And show and tell's real bad for us. At this point we actually need to... I think it might be correct to show and tell in top, and then we can top end of turn. But I've opted not to do anything, which I think was actually just wrong, because what top lets us do is top end of turn. If we find like land DAC, we can draw off the top anyway to get the second card. And it just gives us a little bit more control over the top of our deck. So our outs are very slim here. Alright, so... Brainstorm's our best out. And it gets us nothing. So if we hit a Lotus, we probably could have like Jace bounced the Colossus. But we're just dead. So we lost to a show and tell deck. I think retrospectively, I probably should have assumed that we were playing against Oath or some kind of cheater fatty deck. However, show and tell into Blightsteel is not something I'm particularly used to playing against, and just haven't really seen before. The only show and tell decks I've come across were like actual show and tell Grizzlebrand or Emrakul decks. As a result, we haven't brought any cages. We've just brought some stack interaction and a Notion Thief, because if we see show and tell, we kind of expect to see Grizzlebrand. If we can, drop a Notion Thief in front of a Grizzlebrand, we at least shut off that avenue. We are 100% keeping this, and we're going to preordain turn 1. So a lot of hands where we have like 1 land preordain. We also have a 1 mana piece of interaction. The only 1 mana interaction we have at the moment is a mental misstep, so we're better off cantripping to set up our next draws. So we've grabbed a C. I think we should have grabbed a Volk. We don't want either of those at this point. I think it's actually, maybe we want the Emerald to ensure we can time walk next turn. We don't want the Lotus at this point, unfortunately. I'm sure there's some arguments for the Lotus, but I think I'd just rather be drawing anything different, really. If we'd had Lotus plus preordained time walk, I think we would have been pretty stoked to run it off. But as it stands now, it's not enough. Yeah, so opponents just dropped a Volk, so they're not doing anything terrifying just yet. So we're going to time walk here, and we're going to try and time walk into a red source for a Dak Faden. Okay, and unfortunately we brick a little bit, so we're looking pretty... we're not far behind at this point. We're just looking like it's going to be a little bit of a risky game. Our opponent's going to brainstorm. We, of course, will misstep that, as the assumption there is that they're trying to get a second land. Unfortunately, they already had it. I think we're firing off the misstep there regardless. So we really need that red source, which we hit. And we're just going to drop Dak here. We can't afford to sit around waiting. And if our opponent has a force, which they do, so be it. And the trop, unfortunately, is our tip-off to the fact that our opponent... The trop in the Sylvan Library is our tip-off to the fact that our opponent's actually most likely on Oath. With the only other deck that I can think of running that combination being like the Sylvan Walkers deck that hasn't really been seen for a while. Mox Jet's a nice draw. So what we're going to do next turn is we're going to stick the Notion Thief in front of the Sylvan Library trigger. And maybe we should... I think we should have played Notion Thief in our turn retrospectively. So the reason, or at least on upkeep, so the reason we play it upkeep or on our turn instead of on their draw step is because we don't know whether or not they just top decked that force. So our opponent's just played a land and done nothing, fortunately. So we're starting to look like we could pull out of this. The library's bad for us in a long game. I think so. We should bottom the Volk, draw the Brainstorm, brainstorm away. And I think we can play like... I can put back like maybe Time Vault Ancestral. Okay, so this is the turn we expect our opponent, because they haven't drawn off Sylvan Library yet, I expect them to start drawing off it very... Right, there we go, so they've finally started. I'm a little bit surprised they didn't do it last turn. They must have just had some pretty garbage cards to not bother. So we're going to have to redraw our Sol Ring, which I think, yeah, we want to play out to have it misstepped. I think we kind of want to Ancestral on our turn here, but I think we're playing with the library incorrectly. Fortunately, this is okay because we're now going to get to misstep that Pyroblast and pay for the Flusterstorm. And then if opponent has other interaction, we're going to get to try to mind break trap it. So this could still go awry for us. But it's looking like we're okay. We're also going to have a bit of fun next turn, I think, where we're going to be able to... Alright, so we can let Preordain resolve. We're not going to waste a mind break trap on a Preordain. While it is a draw spell, it's a relatively low impact one and has more to do with consistency. And so, yeah, next turn we're going to... If our opponent casts anything this turn, we're trapping it. Otherwise, next turn, I think we're going to... Okay. So we can let Vamp resolve. We can play Academy. And next turn, so this coming turn, we can, in front of the library trigger, play our Notion Thief and hold up mana for Mind Break Trap. Which, all in all, is pretty damn good for us. Let's Mind Break Trap the Oath, because from where we are now, that's lethal. And we're going to have a hard cast Force of Will for whatever he does next turn. So I think if we can fade... I don't think we even need to fade anymore. I think we just have this already thoroughly locked up. And our opponent makes, I'm assuming, a misclick and lets us draw 2 cards off the library. He's now going to need to put his last one back on top. So we have taken, was that game 1 or game 2? That was game 2, wasn't it? So we're on to game 3 now, and we get to correct our sideboard. So we now actually have cages, which doesn't save us against show and tell, but at least we're not stone cold to Oath. We'll go on the draw now, and this hand's a keep, but not an amazing one. We have top, and we have a Mox, and we have a cage. So we have multiple pieces of interaction. We have a couple of Planeswalkers to start closing the game out. So Mox into Soul Ring to bait a misstep. Soul Ring into top. Sorry, actually cage. I think it's correct to play to get the cage misstepped over the top. The top's probably better for us, especially in front of a library. So we're in good shape so far. We've developed our mana base. We're going to be a little bit soft to something like an Ancient Grudge, but I think all in all, given we now have result top, we're probably looking pretty good. This looks bad for us. So show and tell. We are going to play a Volk. No, sorry, fetch a Volk so that we can cast Dak. And we want... So we wanted a Force of Will there, which we're not finding. So what we actually want to do is just stack back, I think, like Notion Thief first, Brainstorm second, Academy third, so that we can cast Dak next turn with a Notion Thief in play, and him. So that was a bit silly of us. We stuffed that one. So we stack the cards back the wrong way. So fortunately we can still... DT's a nice draw. So we can still draw with top, which we're going to have to do. Okay. Replay top. And of note here, we can't block the Inkwell Leviathan. We can't bounce the Inkwell Leviathan. And realistically, we don't have any outs. At least outs that kill the Inkwell. What our actual out here is drawing into Vault Key. So we have to play fairly aggressively from here, I think. So we're going to draw Dak. And I feel like step number one here is probably like DT for A call. Okay, so Snapcaster isn't great for us here, unfortunately. We need to bottom Pyroblast and that land. So Snap is normally brilliant, but we've got this awkward cage in play. We'll take Cruise. So we should really top draw Cruise. Top fetch draw Cruise. It's what we should be doing here. So I guess at the moment we're just trying to see as many cards as we possibly can, and we have one more turn. And we're not winning this turn almost regardless of what we do. So that's one validation for this particular play. Which I guess makes a certain amount of sense. Because we have to fetch the top away to get enough mana. And so often Will is a good out from these points. Obviously with that cage in play that we got a little bit too ambitious with, I think. It stymies our plan. So step number one, fetch. The Volk, actually no, we can't DT, so that's fine. So we fetch to get rid of the two crap cards we saw before. We're going to cruise now. We're just going to cruise away our entire graveyard. Now we need to ponder, and then if we miss again, we top. So we need to shuffle that. So often Dak's a reasonable draw. In this particular case, okay. So I'm not sure what happened there. MTGO replay just stuffed up. We ended up assembling Vault Key combo after taking a spare turn and drawing all the cards, and that won us the match. Pretty slim outs. I would have liked to have been able to show it, but unfortunately the replay died.